Welcome, everyone. This is the Heroes Podcast again. I have someone very, very special today who's dear to my heart, Aveline Clarke. How are you?
Hey, Indra, I'm so good. Thank you for having me. How are you going?
Well, I'm good, thanks. Based in Europe again. But before we jump into this deep conversation, and this is about Six Star, which is owning a piece of my heart, I want to introduce Aveline, and then we'll roll on with your story, and of course, the rest of Six Stars. So, Aveline is the founder of Journey Point, and she is assisting businesses to connect meaningfully with their core customers, whilst helping them to connect with their purpose in business. She's the host of the Six Star Leaders podcast and the founder and captain of the Six Star community that helps to guide and empower six-star entrepreneurs, bringing their voice, genius, impact, and purpose to the world. I was waiting for this interview for so long. Evelyn, tell us, how did it start? Because
Uh,
this is wonderful, but tell us the, the
oh
path.
man, the path. It's such a good question, Indra, because one thing that a couple of my close friends have said to me in recent years is, I marvel at your ability to be open to the journey of life and be brave to the unknown. And I've looked at them and gone, what do you mean? I don't understand. Isn't that what everyone does? And then they're like, no, you just seem to go on this journey bravely and without kind of fearing the outcome. And so I'll give you a bit of a backstory, I guess the context that launched me into what I'm doing today. So I was a corporate chick, just like so many others before leaving. And I won't say I was lucky, but again, bravely going through life. I remember finding out I was pregnant with my daughter, and I was a single mum, and I'd been traveling previously. I was living at home at the time. It was not the time to get pregnant, but the universe, life had other plans for me. And I wasn't permanently employed. I'd been doing temp work, and I left one job and because it was horrible, and I just thought, what am I going to do? And then the temp agency rang me up and said, oh, we've got a job starting on Monday, and it's working at Australia Post, and it's just a temporary thing, probably for a few months, helping the head of human resources with the salary bonus process. And I thought it sounded quite boring, but I said sure, because at the time, what am I going to do? So I went along, first of all, not telling anybody I was pregnant, because I'd only just found out. I hadn't even told the father to be. I rocked up, and the man that I was working for happened to report through to the managing director, happened to work on the floor with the managing director, the same floor. And there was only about 10 staff on the whole floor. It was a very palatial, open space, beautiful offices. And I started doing projects, and he was the most amazing facilitator of my personal and professional career, because he taught me some basics around, first of all, leave work at 5 o'clock. No one's dying here. It's still going to be here in the morning. He taught me things that people fundamentally do change, Aveline, if you are open to that. He encouraged me to do things, and I think he saw in me the ability to create change. And I was curious, passionate, and I guess that he saw in me a brave person. And so he would come up with ideas to empower and impact the well-being of all of the staff. And Australia Post has about 30,000 employees. And he was the head of human resources for the managers and all the executives. So throughout my 7 years that I worked at Australia Post, I did a number of things, that improved the life of and the experience for them. I brought in laptops and different things that made life, like on a financial level. I managed all the car the people that salary sacrificed for a laptop or a car, or, I did training, and I trained them on the performance management. So I did all these elements of improving things, and I presented to the board. I got things approved, and it was a joy. It was fun. And I enjoyed doing the next thing and the next thing. And the last big project I did with him was I created a whole new onboarding employee kind of welcome experience. And I worked with designers and photographer, and created this amazing sort of welcome so that it made the employees feel good. So I left Australia Post. I went to National Australia Bank. I then took on a big role there. I actually took on the job of 2 people without knowing it. And I ran their global salary bonus process, which was pretty hard. It was a different environment at the bank, and a lot bigger egos. And, I dealt with them all. And then I was sort of tapped on the shoulder and said, Aveline, we have a problem here at NAB. 25% of our new employees are leaving within 18 months. We have a problem here. We don't know how much it's costing us, but we know it's costing us a lot. We think that it's because we've got 7 different sign-on systems of technology for different departments. We don't have anything uniform, nothing standard. And hey, I heard stories about people that would, turn up to work on the first day and not come on the second day, that kind of thing, because it was just that bad. And they said, we need you to fix it. And so by this point in my career, what I knew, and by the way, I did have a degree. I studied organizational development and human behavior. I was into, it was a commerce degree majoring in human resources. So I was in the place I wanted to be. And I loved the fact that I could help create impact in people's everyday lives. And I spent 3 years designing. So first of all, there was the phase of uncovering the problem. And then there was a design phase, and then there was a build phase, like any normal project. And the work that I did spanned the whole organization. It touched a number of departments. I battled a lot of egos to get this done. And at the end of the day, I created a whole new employee experience at NAB, onboarding experience. And we had unification, we had, a language, we had an experience. No matter where someone was in Australia, they would understand who NAB was, why they did what they did, the importance of their role within. There was also a technology element, like, there was a project to reduce all the different systems. So they had this thing called single sign-on. So that was a project that was started as part of my program of work. Everything to improve the employee experience. And after it was implemented and we'd gone through a number of months of testing and results and metrics, that was about the time when the whole annual salary bonus process came around. And the managing director was presented with what had been done. And he was the CEO of NAB, and he came over to me and he shook my hand after this meeting, and he thanked me, and he said, Aveline, thank you so much. You've changed the game at NAB. And after that, I was offered a career track at NAB, and I wasn't interested, because I knew within me that there was more to my life than working for a corporate. There was more to my life than saving them hundreds of millions of dollars a year. Even though I was impacting all those people who were coming on to NAB and new employees, I wanted to impact people just outside of, not just within NAB. I wanted to impact people outside. So I left and I moved interstate, and I set up at the time what was my business that I hadn't really no idea what I was doing. I was transferring skills that I was good at into a business. And a lot of people do this. And so they go into business from themselves and they sell a technical skill. And that's what I started to do. And over the years, I fell into marketing automation and technology, because I'd done and run so many technology projects as well as the human side. But in small business, it was just about the tech. And this was around the time when there was an explosion of CRMs, technology. 2006, of course, was when Twitter and Facebook came online, and I went into small business for myself in 2008. And at that point, there weren't many tools around that did things that, we see today. But I was around and I ran a business, a digital agency that was focused on marketing automation, right? So this is funnels and lead gen. And I had a business partner. We had a small team. We were going for quite a few years. And I felt pretty dead and empty inside. I'd have to say for the last couple of years of the business, I got to a point where I actually didn't really care about getting out of bed. It wasn't that I was depressed, but I felt that what I was doing just had nothing to do with making an impact anymore. And my business partner and I had some big conversations, and he was kind of feeling the same. And in January of 2020, he made the decision to leave. So he left the business. It was all amicable. I wished him well because he was then wanting to pursue something more meaningful for him. And I continued the business. Well, we all know what happened in March. So it was only 2 months later when COVID hit. So I found myself in those couple of months in a place of kind of desperation. It was a place of just not knowing what to do, how to do it. I've got all these skills and experience. I could keep going. And here's the thing, I could have kept going. I was in networks and communities of other business owners that sold the same stuff, that ran agencies. And I knew I could continue to do what I was doing, make a living, and then, leave the office at night and look after my kids and all the rest. But that wasn't sustaining or fulfilling me inside. And I'm sure that people listening, if you've ever reached that point in your career or your working life where you go, what am I actually doing? Like, why is this not feeling fulfilling? Why is it that I'm doing this work over and over, like day in, day out, and it's just, there's something not aligned? Surely there's got to be more than this. And I'd been going to a business school in the 3 or 4 months leading up to my business partner leaving. And this business school program went for about 6 months in total. So, or a bit longer. So when the lockdowns hit, I was in Sydney for one of the last sessions that we had. We had an in-person event. And I remember getting out of Sydney and the plane stopped flying out that night or later. So I got like the last flight back to the Gold Coast. And so when COVID hit, of course, I've got this agency with clients that are paying me to do marketing automation and funnels. And of course, what do people stop buying when the lockdown happens? They stopped buying marketing. So one after the other, all my clients just cancelled. Boom, 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 boom. And I remember sort of walking out of my office one day, like it was a couple of days later, and I literally had nothing to do. And it was a very strange, surreal space. It was like, I don't know, being released from duties, and you suddenly got this blank sheet in front of you, maybe a blank canvas. What are you going to create? And I remember going next door. My dad lives next door. And I remember going and knocking on his door, and I said, well, I've kind of got nothing to do. And it was like I said, it was weird when we all experienced those initial lockdown days differently. And he said to me, well, you've got to get moving. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, you've been to business school. You've got on paper a new business, like the business school prep that you went through. So he said, time to get building. So I went, okay. I remember walking out of his door, walked back to my office, and I just started creating. And what I created and what had come out of this business program was the acknowledgement that I was misaligned with the work that I was doing. Now, I was very good at it. And here's the thing, there are things that we are all very good at. There are elements of what we're doing that we are really good at, and we enjoy parts of our work. And I'm sure that you would know, Andrea, there are things that we don't like doing. There's things that we do. There's things that we're really, really good at. And there's certain clients that we like serving, certain clients that we don't. And I'd done enough designing of the customer experience and the employee experience back at NAB and Australia Post to know that I wasn't on path, and I knew that I could do something better. And this is, I guess, where the bravery comes in, you know, and also the experiences I had at Australia Post with that manager of, okay, well, here's a problem, let's create a solution. And he gave me the space to do that at Australia Post and to learn what I needed to do without limitation. And so I won't call it a luxury, but I think in today's world, sometimes it is luxury. It was that innovative space to be open-minded and to be brave and to ask, what is needed right now? What does the world need right now? And how do I serve that need? And I can now see that my path has basically been that ever since. And that's the bravery that my friends see, but not everybody has been given the space to be brave in life, and they tend to go down a path out of necessity, responsibility, desperation, and other things.
Well,
So
can I just ask you something, Aveline? That's been a wonderful journey that you've been through, and I'm stuck in my head from probably 10 minutes ago when you said went into that job pregnant. I mean, there's a lot of women out there, and they probably that's when they collapse. They wouldn't be able to fulfill that job. How did you do it? Like, tell us.
I was young, and I'm still young, of course, but the fact that my daughter is about to turn 24 is beside the point. And it still makes me laugh today that she's almost 24. But anyway, because I stayed in that job for beyond the 2 or 3 months that the temporary contract was for, I obviously had to tell my boss, well, actually, I'm pregnant. And it was because I was a temp, you know, I didn't know how long I was going to be there. His response was, oh, that's fantastic. So I'm thinking, okay, so he's just being polite. At some point, is he going to say, well, you know, thanks, but see you later? No, he's like, oh, great. And then he wanted to know about, you know, a few questions. And he learnt that I was a single mum, because it turned out that my daughter's father chose not to be on the journey with me. So I shared this with him, and he was really supportive, not in a way that made me feel disempowered, but in a way that made me feel normal. So he normalized me working, and he never pressured me. He said a couple of times, well, you know, do you have any idea when you'd like to finish up? Because he just wanted me to keep working there. And in fact, I worked up until my due date, and I was due, and I turned up for work on the Monday, and my boss said to me, when he came in, and he said, so when are you due again? I said, today. He said, Aveline, do you think you should like maybe take a rest before the baby comes? And I said, no, there's nothing really to go home to. He said, come on, just go, just finish up the day. So I think I worked until about 1 or 2 o'clock that day, and I went home, and I was a bit sad because I didn't really want to go home. And I gave birth on the Thursday.
Wow, this is unbelievable. This is not the usual conversation that probably pregnant women have with their bosses, right? It really opens the door. And I think why I love this little story, Abby, is because the world is going through change. So I see more and more space for women to feel mom's role and still fulfill their career as much as they can. And do you want to take us back then again to that
Yeah.
empty space? And if there was,
Yeah.
and my question would be, I'm about self-worth. I'm always looking for people who are lost. Did you have a story somewhere where you felt lack of self-worth, lack of drive, lack of confidence that you want to share?
Ah, I mean, yes, many times. And I think when I was going through the business, so before my business partner left, I knew that I needed to do business differently. I knew that there was a different way that I could serve and help the world. And I knew that it was a more human approach. And so when prospects would come to me or us and say, this is what we need, and I'd be like, that's wonderful, but let's look at the engagement first, and who your client is, and let's work on building that relationship first. They're like, no, we just want the funnel. Can you just build us the technology? And it was really disempowering. And I remember going to one of my networking kind of events with my colleagues who were also in this tech space using similar systems. And there they were, talking about the numbers and how much money they were making, and, the size of their teams, and getting accolades and all the rest. And I'm thinking, that's not me. I'm not there. There's something wrong with me, right? I'm a smart person. I should be able to do that as well. And I took it as a reflection of my ability, but my self-worth was really hit because I felt that because I'd been doing it longer than them, why aren't I as successful? And I was really, I took it really hard, and it would take me days to kind of get over it. And then I'd use the opportunity to really look at myself, and I never really felt good. Like I never really kind of at the time had a way to really processing and move forward without feeling terrible, like that I sucked, because I compared myself to these others that were running these agencies, and they were seemingly more successful and more driven, getting better results. But what I didn't realize at the time was that was because I wasn't aligned, and I wasn't living on purpose, because I am a purposeful person, and I am always searching for that internal alignment. And I didn't realize at the time that that's why I was in that place.
So the breakthrough out of these patterns, would you say it's connected to what you do now? And
Absolutely.
if that is the case, then you've already started to describe these new insights to understanding what purpose is, or how you could be aligned and maybe have that joy and purpose in your work. But is there any other factors that help you find maybe what you do now?
I have to say that learning from the people around me. So my business partner was actually a Qigong master, and had been a yoga teacher for 20 years as well. So he was very much into Eastern healing practices. So being in a digital marketing business wasn't, it was kind of like the opposite to, who he naturally was. So he had a lot of wisdom and would say a lot of things along the way. And that helped. And I think then I was always searching, right? I think I'm always open to looking for experiences of others. And I'm also someone who loves like Formula One, and people laugh at this, but the reason I love Formula One is that it is the highest echelon of motorsports. So I like looking at the psychology of the people that get there, the team environment, how there's so many different factors that go into a successful car race and being able to get a good result. And I've always looked at, what drives people in certain career choices and how they end up and what makes someone more successful and happier and on path than someone else. So I guess I've just always been a student and curious around that, and acknowledging that we are all different. We are born with unique gifts, and that much I could see. And I can see it in Formula One. I can see it in all different areas at NAB and all the different businesses I've worked with. And if I'm honest, I look at then the people that I was comparing myself to in marketing automation, well, they were different to me as well. And so having that realization and acceptance that I am not them. Now, if they're going to be successful in that space and they are genuinely happy about it, I was never that genuinely happy about it, then there's obviously something different for me. And it was a process of then taking the first step and the next step and the next step, and being open to what life brought me and showed me, and trusting that life would show me what I needed to learn or take on or see within myself. And that was hard because it was easier sometimes to hold on to the bad stuff. It was easier to blame my circumstances and, play it safe. When I say play it safe, it's doing the thing that you know how to do that's not necessarily always the thing that brings you the most joy.
And what's the outcome? You mentioned open mind. I've heard there was a few mentors around you who've been facilitating your journey. So really have their insights, have reflections, and look at how people are probably not living the life they wanted, but I've seen that so many times, that they are delusional, which is fine for them. But we are a different breed. That's why we are on this podcast. And so what has happened? How did you break through all of these unresolved challenges and not feeling good, or not feeling that you fit in to these teams and environments?
First of all, I of course, this all came about sort of in that period leading up to my business partner leaving. So again, there was events that happened that forced me to then ask questions, sit with myself, get real, be afraid. And then the lockdowns happen, or March, April 2020. And I took the time to sit and be alone with myself and ask questions that were just really straight questions and get really straight answers. Because and alone with myself does not mean sitting there with a laptop and my phone. It means being away from all distractions, all people, devices, being in nature or whatever, and going for walks and connecting with myself and just allowing myself to feel into the situation and listen to my intuition, because I'm very connected to myself. We're spiritual beings in these physical bodies. We have these centers of knowing that we've never been taught how to tap into from our traditional education systems and trainings. And I've taught myself over the years or and gotten better at it. It didn't come easy. And so just spending time with myself and tuning in and asking the questions. I also had help. I've had sessions with yourself to help remove limiting beliefs around building these things or stepping forward in a new area of my life. And it's really clear to me that people need help from outside of themselves, because there's so much in us. We all have traumas, we've all got baggage, we've all got histories, and thinking about it or talking about it by ourselves is not going to heal it, and it's not going to heal the impact of those things that are stopping us from being the best versions of ourselves. So realizing that I needed to do that work in order for me to move forward, well, that was the first thing. And then actually doing the work, it's not really easy. And then it was being brave and being open to what was coming up. So I created the business that I had on paper from business school. I started doing that. And at the same time, I started the podcast, 6-Star Podcast. And I never thought the two would join. I saw them as two very, very separate things. And I guess at the time they were. And starting the podcast, I had another host, and he started it with me. And we had a very different mission and outlook at the time. And then after about 6 months, he left and I continued. And there was a few other things we did, and we created the community. And then over time, it's been this evolution and an unfolding, a natural unfolding of what the people wanted, what the people needed, and what was coming forward all the time. And again, link back to my days at Australia Post doing these projects with my boss there. That's what it was about. My boss would say, hey, we have a problem here that I've noticed in this part of the organization. Let's create a solution. And that was it. That's what that's the way I approach the podcast and the 6-Star movement. And with my business, I've evolved that initial program that I created substantially since I first did it in 2020. And I think it was towards the end of 2020, I started, getting clients and taking them through a process. And yeah, I've completely revamped it and improved it, and it's evolved. And now it's become so clear that what I've created is a process, a pathway for people to actually tune in and tap into their best selves, who they really are, the right client, and then know how to speak to that client, how to engage them, how to speak, what to say to them, and how to market themselves, and the pieces are all around that. So it could be called marketing, it could be called engagement marketing, but it's a very unique process that cuts through a lot of the existing BS around, marketing speak and terminology and things that people think they have to do. And it helps people to actually become far more connected with themselves. So, and as a little side note, or anecdotal note, so I mentioned how old my daughter is, and I went to Australia Post when I was just pregnant with her. I got a message from my old boss just 3 days ago. He was sitting in an airport. He's flying to Portugal to do the Portugal Camino. And he's retired. He's long retired. And he said, Av, I'm sitting here in this airport, and I'm listening to your podcast conversation where I was being interviewed by Ellie Nagy on the Unapologetic Woman podcast. And I am so engaged with this conversation, but I'm really amazed at what do you say? He said, I'm reflecting on the brave woman, the young woman that you were. And oh my God, I'm getting teary. He said, and it seems that you have continued and become an even braver, more beautiful version today.
Wow. These are the moments, I guess, that where we find ourselves. And it's really touching my heart. I'm heading off to Portugal as well in 3 days on a journey. But how did you,
Yeah.
are you gonna work with him again, or will you connect with him? Will we see him on the podcast? What is Six Star about? If you want to share with us.
So my old boss, he's like the age of my parents, I think. No, he's long retired. And it was interesting that he said that, because it was kind of like he shone a light of awareness on me. And then I was able to look at that and just go, wow, that was his perspective. That's what he saw. And yet I saw that he gave me the space, you know. Six Star, what is Six Star about? Six Star is about bringing our uniqueness, the individual, to the world, into our businesses. So we have us, and then we have our business. I teach that there's a relationship we have with our business, and they're two separate entities. We don't always keep the same business. We can fulfill that business's mission and purpose and move on to another one. Six Star is honoring the purposeful individual, tapping into their genius, and helping people to connect with the points of their journey, or their reason for being, and why they're here. Because I believe that the way that we create a better world only comes when people are tapped into their higher self, their genius, what it is that they do best in the world, and look at the problem and that the world needs around them. And that's when we create magic, not when we have a world or society filled with people just carrying out robotic duties, because that's not who we really are. And I think largely people have forgotten that we are spirit first, and we are all born with unique gifts, and we're all different. So in my process, in my program, which is called the Six Star Journey, I teach that there's no competition. You know, early in my career, I'd do these big marketing positioning workshops where, you know, I'd look at all the competitors and do all this positioning. It was a lot of fun. But there's actually no competition, really. Unless you want there to be. And so there is a way to, you know, bring yourself to the world, or your business to the world, and not be seen as, you know, a commodity.
And if somebody is keen to learn more about this, or thinking to test himself or herself or her business against this six-star idea, this doing business when there's no competition, there is a new purposeful entrepreneur, what would be the first step for them to experience what Six Star is?
Okay, so definitely you can check out the podcast and have a look through and see if there's an episode that, you know, jumps out at you that you'd like to listen to. We publish weekly. But if they want to do something like absorb some other knowledge, I've got a handout. It's a guide, and it's called The Magical Effect of Aligning Your Genius with Your Business. And it helps people to find that sweet spot that gives them a feeling of meaning and purpose and fulfillment in their business. So that will be available, and literally it's brand new. And I'm just going to be putting that onto LinkedIn. So that will be, on LinkedIn. So you can connect with me, go to LinkedIn. So there's only one Aveline Clarke. You can also go to Six Star Leaders on LinkedIn, and it'll be available there in the posts and as a download.
Wonderful. And to make sure that people find the podcast, and we'll put everything under videos. So do you
Yeah.
want to tell us where is the podcast available?
Yeah, sure. So it's we publish on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. It's across all the channels. It's just called 6-Star Leaders. So if you just search for 6-Star Leaders, the URL, because we've just switched from 6-Star Business to 6-Star Leaders, and so it's podcast at the moment, podcast.6star.business. That's how you can find the podcast at the moment.
Wow, what a story, Ev. And if things went really well for you in the next 3 to 5 years, what would you be celebrating? What would you be inspired about looking back?
Wow, that's a great question. I think it would be seeing so many people learning these concepts and stepping into their genius and seeing them happy and confident and joyous and having that clarity that I never had back when I was in that blank space of confusion and all the frustration. And when I see people waking up every day and connecting with themselves and others from that place inside of them, that's going to be a great day. Yeah.
So would it be fair to say you worked out the small steps to finding that inspired entrepreneur in themselves? You work out a little map where they can just do one step at a time to simplify their journey.
Yep. Yeah, and connect them with their business in the right way.
Wow, that would change the world, because I believe there's a lot of businesses out there who are doing it for the money. And that's putting their focus on the money.
Yeah.
And this is where I believe I've been making change for a long time in my industry, where I'm focused about results for my clients. So is there anything that I forgot to ask or I should have asked before, unfortunately, getting to the end of this interview? But what would you want to share that I haven't properly asked?
Okay. So I'll share a couple of things. I'll be very, very quick.
Okay, you've got time.
So what do I love? What do I get the most meaning and joy from? It's from my customers getting clarity of the alignment of who they are in and through their business, and being able to serve their customers to create an impact in their lives. When I see them get that alignment and the relief, that's when I know that I'm doing the work that I'm here to do. And what do I do best? I do best at helping people to figure out that path, that alignment, and create the strategy and the container for them to bring that to the world. In terms of what would be the first step, so definitely check out the lead magnet, the download I mentioned. And I just want to leave you with one thing, and that is, bravery is not someone like, when I say the word bravery, often we have pictures in our mind that come up. We might think of, a movie or The Gladiator or something. And it's not that at all. Bravery is simply being honest and letting go of the expectations of others and being in the space where you are just you and you're not being influenced by what you think you should do or others. And it's asking the questions creating the space for yourself, and being true to who you are. And if there's anything that you can take away from this, it's that we all deserve to get to that place where we wake up in the morning and we're excited about what we're going to do because we know we're going to make a difference in someone's life. That's our birthright. It's not for the lucky ones. And the first step is being brave enough, and it doesn't take much, to just accept that you are divine. You are, this beautiful, unique being in the world who's here to give your gifts. Ask the questions, create the space for yourself, and go through the journey, because that's what life's about.
Aveline, thank you very much. This is just a beautiful finish. It would be today. I just can't let you go. I've got one more question, because I know that you have been creating that space through the 6-star community. Would you want to share maybe a few of those events that you have created, so people are stepping into this wonderful version of themselves through what kind of meetings there, through the 6-star community, how people could attend, and where we can get more information, or maybe if you have an example of someone's breakthroughs through these spaces that you created.
That's such a good question. So we have a YouTube channel at the moment, 6-Star Business, but depending on when this goes live, it could be 6-Star Leaders. And in there, one of our playlists are event replays. We've also got snippets. So we have some snippets from our events just in there, like 2-3 minute snippets. And we have a couple where there's a few members of the community talking about what makes it different, what makes it special. So go into the YouTube channel and you'll be able to watch those snippets, spend 10 minutes in there, and, you'll get definitely a good sense of what it's about. On a fortnightly basis in the community, we have like a huddle, and it's a space where we come together and, we talk, we share what's come up for us. It's a place for us to share, to unload any challenges, and then talk through collectively, an aspect of challenge or something that we are trying to overcome. Sometimes it can be focused on, one person's event, but sometimes, it's a collective sharing. And the magic in that is that there's a group of us and you get the wisdom of other people. And we all go through things in a different way and see things differently. We celebrate wins and the magic moments of how we are showing up in the world and how we are making an impact. And just through that simple sharing, it impacts all of the others. So that's a really beautiful thing we do every fortnight, and that's for our paid members. We have also a monthly Challenge to Clarity event where we allow the space for one person to bring up a challenge that they've got, and we have this great process to actually help them get through it. It's quite a unique, special thing where you get the feedback of everyone else without interruption, and it's very clean, and it leaves the person with a series of action steps and ideas and takeaways that they can then go and put into practice. So we do that as well. And on a quarterly basis, we have another kind of session where we review the past few months, like a season, really. And he highlights that kind of thing. And we also, every 2 to 3 months, we will do public events. So I have started to co-host events as well. So a member of the community might have an event they want to run, and then I'll support them under 6-Star to do that as well. So I'll present, we work collaboratively really to then promote that event. And then I'll introduce them, and then they go and deliver the event. So that could be just like an hour live class or something like that. Yeah. So these are all the events that we do, and in our community we have other things for our non-paying members as well, so that they get value from being there, because really it's about inspiring them and giving them just the nuggets and the gold they need to move to that next step.
Aveline, thanks very much. There's a lot of tools for people who are keen to learn about the six-star community and the six-star leaders. And I, for myself, want to say I've had a lot of takeaways about clarity of who I am and how I can take my business and my purpose to the next level. Well, thanks very much. Now I feel that we can finish this interview. I appreciate you. I love you. And I hope
Thank
to
you,
spend
Andrew.
even more time with you in the six-star leaders community.
Likewise. Thank you, Andrew. Really appreciate it.
Thanks.